The Locket in the Lake. Diane Whitaker eased her 2010 Ford Explorer to a stop at the end of the gravel driveway, the tires crunching over pine needles scattered like forgotten promises. It was July 2025, and the northern Michigan air carried the scent of warm earth and Lake Huron's faint, briny tang. At 60, Diane felt the drive from Detroit in every creak of her joints. Decades on the auto plant's assembly line had left her knees stiff, her shoulders tight. But she wasn't here for rest. She was here to close a chapter, to sift through the remnants of her sister Marlene's life and decide what to keep, what to let go. The cabin sat at the edge of Harrisville, a weathered A-frame painted appealing blue, its screen door sagging like an old friend too tired to stand straight. Marlene, 2 years younger, had bought this place 20 years ago with money from a painting sold to a Chicago gallery. She'd called it her sanctuary, a retreat from the noise of the world. Diane, practical and rooted in Detroit's suburbs, had scoffed at the idea back then. A cabin in the middle of nowhere? But Marlene was the dreamer, the artist, the one who chased sunsets while Diane paid bills. They hadn't spoken in 15 years. The fight that broke them was over their mother's estate in 2010. Cancer took Mom, and the sisters clashed over the family home in Hamtramck. Diane wanted to keep it for her kids, Sarah and Mark. Marlene wanted to sell, to fund her art. "You're so controlling," Marlene had shouted. "And you're a flake who runs from everything," Diane fired back. The door slammed and silence followed. No calls, no letters, just a chasm that grew wider with time. Marlene died 6 months ago. Breast cancer, like Mom. A lawyer's letter informed Diane she'd inherited the cabin, a small savings account, and an urn with instructions. "Scatter my ashes where I loved." Diane stared at that urn on her kitchen table for weeks, anger and guilt wrestling in her chest. Why her? Why not Marlene's artsy friends? But blood was blood, even if it ran cold. She unlocked the cabin, the air inside thick with dust and lavender, Marlene's scent. The living room was a time capsule, canvases stacked against walls, a half-finished clay sculpture on the coffee table, bookshelves crammed with art books and worn novels. Diane dropped her duffel bag and sighed. 2 weeks to sort this mess. Keep what mattered, donate the rest, sell the place. Her daughter Sarah, 35 and a nurse with 2 toddlers, offered to help. Diane declined. "This is mine to do," she'd said, needing the solitude to face her ghosts. Day 1 was methodical. Diane boxed up knickknacks, a ceramic owl Marlene made in high school, a jar of sea glass from their teen years at Lake Huron. Each item sparked a memory. The owl recalled summers at Grandma's farm, sneaking out to spot barn owls. The sea glass? Marlene strung it into necklaces they sold at craft fairs, giggling over their empire. Diane's throat tightened, but she kept moving. By day 3, the cabin felt less like a museum. Diane stepped onto the back deck for air, the lake shimmering under the noon sun. Sailboats dotted the horizon, and the wooden dock stretched 50 feet into the water, its planks warped from years of waves. Marlene had loved that dock, painting sunrises, dangling her feet on hot days. Diane wandered down, sneakers soft on the wood. At the end, a rowboat bobbed, tied with frayed rope. Near it, half buried in weeds, was a child's fishing tackle box. Green metal, rusted orange. Curious, Diane knelt and tugged it free. The latch was stuck, corroded. She fetched a screwdriver from Marlene's toolbox, still in the shed, like she'd used it yesterday. Back on the dock, she pried open the latch with a pop. Inside, among tangled fishing line and hooks, was a silver locket, tarnished but unmistakable. Diane's breath caught. It was the locket she'd given Marlene for her 16th birthday in 1983, heart-shaped, engraved with "Sisters Forever." Inside, a tiny photo, the two of them at 13 and 15, arms around each other, laughing at Belle Isle Park, the Detroit River sparkling behind them. Diane's hand shook. How was this here? They'd fought over that locket in 1983 at this very lake when their parents rented a cabin nearby. Marlene borrowed it without asking, flaunting it for a summer crush. Diane, furious, called her selfish. In a rage, Marlene tore it off and threw it into the water. "I hate you!" she screamed. They searched the shallows for hours, but it was gone. Marlene apologized, tears streaming, but the loss lingered, a crack in their bond that never fully healed. Yet here it was, in a rusty tackle box. Had Marlene found it? Dived for it years later? Diane opened the locket again, and a folded scrap of paper slipped out, yellowed and fragile. In Marlene's loopy script, it read, "D, if you're reading this, I'm probably gone. Found the locket last summer caught on a fishing line while cleaning the dock. Fate, huh? I planned a picnic here. Hot dogs, potato salad, us watching the sunset, saying sorry for everything. But the cancer's back, and I don't know if I'll make it. I love you, sis. Always have. Scatter my ashes from the dock. Keep the locket. Forgive me? Dated 8 months ago, before the end. Diane sank to the dock, sobs tearing through her. Marlene had wanted to fix things, to bridge the gap. The illness stole her chance. All those years of silence, and Marlene had been holding this hope, this piece of their past. The sun dipped, casting gold across the lake. Diane clutched the locket, slipped it around her neck. It felt warm, right. She fetched the urn from the cabin, carried it to the dock's edge. With a shaky breath, she scattered the ashes, watching them swirl on the breeze, settling into the water like soft snow. I'm sorry too, Mar. I love you. That evening, a pickup truck rumbled up the driveway. A woman climbed out, tall, 58, salt and pepper hair in a ponytail, paint-splattered jeans. You're Diane? She called. I'm Rita Hayes, lived next door 10 years. Marlene's friend. Diane nodded, shaking her hand. She mentioned you in old letters. Rita's eyes softened. She talked about you all the time. Said you were her anchor. They sat on the porch with iced tea, sharing stories. Rita revealed she'd helped Marlene search for the locket last summer with a metal detector. She was so excited, planning that picnic down to the napkins. Diane showed her the note, tears falling again. Rita hugged her. She'd want you to keep this place, make it something good. The idea sparked overnight. Diane called Sarah. I'm staying longer. Want to help fix this place up? Sarah arrived the next weekend with Tommy, 5, and Lily, 3. They painted walls, bright yellows and blues, while the kids smeared finger paint on easels. Mark, Diane's son, drove up from Ohio, fixing the roof and laughing about old family camping trips. Rita brought her woodworking skills, building shelves for a studio space. Word spread in Harrisville. The mayor stopped by, offering a grant for community projects. A local teacher, Miss Ellis, volunteered to teach kids art classes. Diane decided not to sell. Instead, she'd open Marlene's Lakeside Studio, a free art space for the town, kids, seniors, anyone with a spark. The work took weeks. Diane found Marlene's journals in the attic, filled with sketches and confessions. Miss D every day. She's my rock. Diane wept, laughed at Marlene's stories of bad dates and painting storms. She shared them with Sarah, healing old wounds. The grand opening was September, under a harvest moon. 50 locals came, Artists, neighbors, kids. Diane's speech was short. This is for my sister, for lost time, for second chances. Paintings hung, Marlene's sunrises, Diane's old photos. A girl, Mia, 10, with freckles, reminded Diane of Marlene. You ever lose something important? Mia asked, sculpting clay. Yeah, Diane said, touching the locket. But sometimes you find it. Diane moved to the cabin that fall, trading Detroit's hum for loon calls. She taught classes, sipped cocoa with Rita, snowshoed in winter. Sarah visited often. Mark, too, an old friend from high school, reconnected, inspired by a studio post on Facebook. At 61, Diane hosted Marlene's picnic. Hot dogs, potato salad, sunset. Family and friends laughed, the lake glowing. The locket gleamed against her heart. Years later, at 70, Diane passed the studio to Mia, now an artist. The locket went to Sarah. As Diane stood on the dock one last time, the lake whispered, "Love, like lost treasures, always finds a way back."